So we are now, this is session 8. Brothers and sisters, for those who miss the several sessions we had this past week, we had wonderful, intimate moments, something that churches don't experience on a regular basis. We have wonderful time to share not only the mask that we wear, but even the brokenness that we experience. So thank you very much, brothers and sisters who attended our nightly meeting. Your stories inspired us even more. You know, if you are in a profession like my profession, where every now and then you sit before, you are considered gladiators, if you may. You have your own battle. You have your own fight. And as you succeed and sometimes fail and then sometimes succeed, you know, those kind of experiences that you have. Imagine if your job is just to listen and learn from your experiences as the spiritual gladiators. Those stories really benefited me so much. It adds a lot of wisdom to the way I see the world and to the way I see my faith. So thank you very much for those who shared their stories during this week. Today we'll be discussing the wisdom and how to integrate all of the things that we have discussed in the past. But it's very timely. And Sister Addie, we didn't have coordination. The Serenity Prayer is the subject of the presentation today. The Serenity Prayer. So let me quote it again. Okay, there you go. Oops. It starts with this paragraph. There's more, but let's just focus on this. This is the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. It's a beautiful prayer. And this is a powerful prayer used by people who are joining AA meetings. And according to a famous author, if you have read Scott Peck, one of his books, he always emphasized that if you want to experience true and authentic church, go to AA meeting. Because in church, you say, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. But people don't usually share beyond, I'm fine, thank you. Scott Peck says, if you want to experience pseudo community, go to a church. But if you want to experience real community, go to AA meeting. When you go to AA meeting, every time they introduce themselves, they remove their mask. Hi, I'm Geof and I'm broken. Well, they don't use the word broken. They use the word, I'm alcoholic. But we are all broken. And sometimes we introduce people that we know in church based on their position, status, accomplishments. But this week, we get to know each other even more, deeper. What a powerful way to experience intimacy. We experience intimacy through brokenness. So I want to use this prayer to integrate the entire thing that we have discussed this past week and find wisdom. We'll start with our experience of change and then our freedom to accept things as they are, and then the wisdom to finally know the difference. The first point I'd like to drive in here, we'll start with our courage to change. How do we understand change? Okay? Change is not about control. Change is when we let transformation happen. But if we put the freedom to change within our hands, then we are more controlling than allowing transformation to happen. To illustrate, let me invite you to go visit Genesis 25. But it's going to be a long story, a long journey. We don't have time to read the whole story of Jacob and Esau. But let me take you there. So, this for some reason. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. So, you know the story, right? Rebekah was crying daily, and Isaac was so disheartened. Welcome to imperfect world. God said, Abraham, through your seed, the Messiah is going to come. Now, Isaac was so disheartened because he got married 40 years old, and now he is turning 60, 20 years after his marriage, still there's no baby. And Rebekah was getting insecure. What's going to happen? I thought we are going to be part of the lineage. Part of the lineage. I'm illustrating point number 1 here, okay? Thank you very much, Geof, folks, for helping us here. Change is not about control, but it is transformation. So, I'm going back to the story, Rebekah and Isaac. They're crying and said, how can we be part of the lineage if after 20 years there is no baby being born? Lo and behold, after their prayers, God spoke to them and said, you will have twins. And Rebekah felt the discomfort in her tummy because these twins are fighting. And she went back to the Lord, how come my tummy is having this kind of conflict and tension? And God said, oh, you're carrying 2 nations. They don't get along. And the younger one will become stronger than the older one. The older one will serve the younger one. Fast forward, the babies were born, Esau first, with this red skin and hairy body, and that's why he was called Esau. And then Jacob came holding the foot, the heel of Esau. And Rebekah saw and understood the meaning of that. Now here's the thing. Something is wrong in the picture. Culture versus prophecy. The culture says whoever gets born first will be the leader, will be the stronger, will be the person who will get a bigger and larger portion of the inheritance and the lineage and power as far as the family is concerned. So Esau knows that. He is the firstborn child. He is daddy's favorite. Both of them went hunting almost every day, while Jacob stayed with mother. Now here's the thing. We have to do something. Control. Because in Rebekah's heart, she believes that to make things happen, Jacob should be the one who's getting the blessing from Isaac. So for a very long time, they've been talking about this, I could imagine. And Jacob was always ready to take control and manipulate things and make sure Jacob is just helping God or helping the prophecy to be fulfilled. That's what Jacob maybe was thinking. For example, after hunting, Esau was dying of hunger. And say, Jacob, I can smell this, wonderful dish that you made. Feed me, I'm dying. And Jacob was not so frantic. He was just, maybe singing while cooking, And then Esau was pleading. And then Jacob said, I'm going to serve you dinner on one condition. What is that? Sell me your birthright. Make me the older one instead of you. And Esau says, this is ridiculous, but I'm dying anyway. What good is it for me to be the older person? Fine, take it. Just give me this food. Now, this is one of our ways to control things. We manipulate things. And you know the story. It didn't end there. Rebekah, finally, when Isaac got older, old enough that he couldn't see, but it's time for him to bless Esau as the firstborn child. But again, control. Control is the key, the theme of Jacob and Rebekah. How they would control the situation. How can they make Isaac bless Jacob? Well, they have to pretend that Jacob is Esau. So Esau wore, maybe a shirt full of fur to pretend that he is Esau. And we know the story, it happened. Jacob went to Isaac. And Isaac, because of poor sight, felt someone is coming. And then Jacob says, I'm here to get your blessing. And Isaac says, okay, but who are you? What is your name? What did Jacob say? My name is Esau. I am Esau. We know the story. Isaac gave the blessing to Jacob as the firstborn child. Esau came asking for the same thing, but Jacob is gone. Now Jacob knows that Esau could be so angry enough to kill him, so he started fleeing. When Esau realized that Jacob stole his birthright, he was so furious. And yes, indeed, he's ready to kill his brother. What a conflict. What a chaos. What a tension. But this, what happens when we take full control of our life, of our environment, of the situation, of relationship. We have kids who happen to be good support to one another. Pastor Ron's kids and my kids. We were pastors. Or we raise our kids to be pastors' kids. Control. Part of the control is we are setting them to be, quote unquote, the pastor kids. So the discipline is not just how to be a fine young man, but how to be a fine young pastor's kids. What a pressure. All we know as parents is just we are doing the best for them, for the church, and for the ministry. But once control takes place over transformation, the more it becomes messier. I know I have heard my son pressuring him to be a better person, not just because it's the way to become a man, but sometimes it's a way to become a pastor's kid or a family of a pastor. I really have a wonderful opportunity to ask for forgiveness for pushing my son to be that person. But I know that when I control things, it goes against the principle of transformation. Sometimes we think that what we do is the best thing to do, and therefore we take full control. Same thing with Rebekah, same thing with Jacob. They were thinking they were just aiding the process of helping God make this prophecy complete. Brothers and sisters, from that on, the supposedly wonderful relationship between twin brothers has become worse. They departed with anger on Esau's side and with fear on Jacob's side. For many, many years, they have children and they never met because they are afraid of each other, or at least angry and afraid of each other. So the cousins didn't have a chance to meet. The cousins didn't have a chance to play together. The cousins didn't have a chance to be in a party together. They were all secluded. It's a very ugly family dynamics and family picture. Why? Simply because we take full control of what we think would be a better outcome, but the messier it has become. Change, my friends, is not about fixing what's broken. Change, it's letting God's grace transform the cracks into beauty. So what if Jacob became the second born? It is not our problem to fix the order. That could be a crack. But crack is a space, my friends, where God's grace can operate and transform so that this crack could be formed into something that's beautiful. But sometimes we jump the gun. Sometimes we would like to be God. Unknowingly, we thought that we are just helping God. We put control in our hands. Yes, the serenity prayer says, change what I can. But it doesn't necessarily mean that changing my son to become a better person, my spouse to become a better person, changing everybody but me sometimes to become better and suit my fantasy and my ideals and my belief. Many marriages today, they break up because of one strong complaint. I thought he's going to change, but he never did change. I tried my best to change him. So he doesn't change, so it's better for us to part ways. Marriage is not about changing the other. But transformation can happen, don't get me wrong. But it's not our responsibility to change them. It's our responsibility to allow and let God's grace work on the transformation in our life. Question, my friend. What if true change is not about fixing what's broken, but about allowing God to create something new? If you are regretting in your life because you didn't get the right job, the right relationship, the right position in church, if you didn't get the right environment, the right family, it's the wrong family for me. How I wish I'm part of the other, family, my neighbor's family. And all what's in our mind is building up a fantasy on how we can fix, or maybe we create something new on our own. But let me ask you this question. Change is not about fixing the broken. Change is about allowing God's hand to transform things in our life. What if true change is not about fixing what's broken, but about allowing God to create something new? Think of your life right now. The things that you forced, thinking that you can change them for the better. Until now, especially family dynamics, the reason why there is tension is we keep on changing things that we cannot change. Change what you can, but allow it in the context of transformation. Things that you can't, you let God do the work. The other thing here, as part of prayer is concerned, is acceptance. Acceptance is about surrender and trust. It is not resigning, it's about trusting, okay? I want to point that out quite well. True acceptance is not giving up, but trusting that even what we can't change is held in God's purpose. So let me continue the story that we had today. Fast forward. Jacob already has his family, 12, actually 13 including the girl that he has, concubines, servants. It's a big size of family. He's the leader, obviously, but no one knows that deep within he has this brokenness and insecurity. One day he heard that Esau is approaching. In his imagination, he said, "My army, my people, my family is no match with Esau's family. So if we have this encounter, I think we will be all gone, maybe annihilated." So he was so insecure as a leader, but it was not actually that kept him up. Yes, he did divide his family so that in case one of this group met Esau, at least one half of the group could still survive. But at that night in Jabbok River, he said to his family and his people, go. I just need time for myself. But deep within, he was experiencing his own brokenness. Jacob the deceiver, he knows that when the name Esau is because that's a consequence of the mess that he made all his life. So he was walking, troubled, very anxious. And then all of a sudden he had this feeling that the person that he's seeing is God. And then he said, "This has to stop. Whatever I'm feeling, it's so heavy." So he jumped and wrestled with this man that he thought God. And according to scriptures, it is indeed, angel, but God wrestling with him. Now, when they were wrestling, this man allowed Jacob to do everything he could, and even allowed Jacob to pin him down. I don't know, maybe it's an equal match, but the wrestling match went more than hours, that now it is the sun was about to rise in the morning. And when the sun was about to rise in the morning, God said, or the angel said, depending on which part of the verse you're reading, God said, "Let me go. The sun is almost up." And Jacob said, "No, I'm not gonna let you go. I want you to bless me before you go." That is actually the cry in this wrestling match. Maybe every time, Jacob found an equal footing, "Bless me. I know you're God. Bless me. Bless me. Bless me." And now the sun was about to rise. The angel or God was about to leave. And Jacob really grabbed, maybe on his thigh or shoulder or whatever, and said, "I'm not gonna let you go unless you bless me." The problem is this: you're asking for a blessing. It takes a process. And the process is surrender and trust. Surrender and trust. Something that he failed to do the first time he was thinking of a blessing. The first time he was thinking of a blessing, he concocted a scheme that would make him go first before Esau and get blessing from this poor dad whose eyesight has already lost. They formed a wonderful strategy. They depended on their own strength and on their own smart ideas. But this time, helpless Jacob has nothing, almost strength is almost gone, wrestling for the whole night. The only thing that he could do is trust and surrender. It is the second time he's asking for a blessing, but this time it's coming from his heart. Bless me, God. Bless me. You know what the angel or God said to Jacob? Do you know what he said? He gave Jacob the same environment that Jacob had when he was asking blessing from Isaac. Isaac, for some reason, already has a sense that maybe this is not Esau. So he gave the man an opportunity to express and reveal the truth and to trust the process. Isaac said, "What is your name? Who are you?" That is an opportunity of Jacob to say, "Actually, Dad, it's me, Jacob. I was just trying to deceive my brother, but thank you for asking. I don't think I can do this." That was a great opportunity. But no, Jacob was faithful to their strategy until he was able to get Isaac's blessing. Now, guess what? In this wrestling match, do you remember what did the angel or God say? "What is your name?" Just think about that. What is your name? It's the same exact moment when Jacob was asking for blessing the first time. The words he got from his father was, "What is your name? Who are you?" God asked the same question. Now this time, Jacob trusted. He can no longer change what happened to him. The only thing that he can do right now is to trust that even he was Jacob the deceiver, asking blessing from God. The only thing he can say, Jacob, by the way, is also known to be the deceiver, said, "I am Jacob." Then Jacob, for the first time, experienced the genuine, authentic form of blessing. Why? Because he surrendered. He trusted. He humbled himself. Something that he refused when Isaac gave him the opportunity. But this time, maybe trembling, maybe crying, maybe broken, too broken, but surrendered and trusted the process. So brothers and sisters, that is not giving up, but that is trusting. What we can change, Jacob knows that he can no longer change, including the mess and brokenness that he caused. The only thing he could do right now is trust. And that, my brothers, could lead us to this question. Jacob held on to his goal and his need to be the firstborn child for a very long time. The role that is attached to that, the power that is attached to that, the privilege of being in the lineage in bringing the Messiah. Jacob held on to that. But when he was wrestling, he realized that there's no point of holding on to that. He's going to go back to simply being Jacob. Question for you. What are you holding onto that God is asking you to surrender? What are you holding? What are you holding on to? Brothers and sisters, only you who could share to God. You have your own wrestling with God. So I invite you to respond to this question. And finally, let us now experience wisdom. And wisdom is this: when you try to see the difference between things that we can change and the things that we can change. The wisdom is seeing brokenness without shame. You know, after the wrestling match of Jacob and the angel, after he was blessed, he left the match limping. And he limped for the rest of his life. From one perspective, that must be shameful. But from God's perspective, that brokenness is glorified in grace. It's a great reminder that Jacob took the opportunity to humble himself and called himself Jacob, not Esau. He was limping the rest of his life, remembering this wonderful match and seeing his brokenness without shame. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. But Israel is not even a name that would fix Jacob. If Jacob is deceiver, if I am Jacob, I would like a new name called honest. I would like to have a name called pure. But Israel doesn't mean pure, doesn't mean honest. Israel meant wrestling with God. Even the changed name of Jacob is a picture of that humbling experience, wrestling with God. But there's no shame in there, my friends. There's no shame in your brokenness. You may have had a chance to yell at God, ask why have you forsaken me? You may have this broken relationship with self and others, broken family, failed business, failed education, failed in whatever you are aiming for. And sometimes you hide them in your closet and pretend that you are something that is not. Time has come that we are being invited to embrace our shame, because this is not our brokenness without shame. Because brokenness is not our identity, my friends. It is the space where God's redemption takes shape. Brokenness is there. Sometimes we conceal it. Shame conceals, but grace reveals. God calls us to see our wounds as sacred, not hidden. This week we have experienced that. Let me commend those who find freedom to finally experience the freedom of not being boxed and defined by their brokenness. May we continue to experience that. You're born in a poor family, you're born in poverty, or you're born in a rich family but broken. You're born in a place where dad was absent. You were born in a place where mom abandoned you as a child. You were born in a place where your sister or brothers continue to build space between the two of you. Welcome to your brokenness. But my friends, let me remind you, your brokenness is not your identity. Never. The broken pieces is never your identity. Your worth is because you are owned by God, regardless of the brokenness that you have experienced. So this question is for you. How would your life change if you saw your brokenness as part of God's masterpiece. Think about that. Brothers and sisters, think about that. God's masterpiece is not because He was able to repair your brokenness. God is not into repair. God is into renewal. Renewal. He treasured these broken spaces to present to you a more valued masterpiece. And you know why it's more valued? Because in those broken pieces, the spaces on these cracks, the spaces on the cracks is the golden lacquer of Jesus. So friends, may we rejoice in our own brokenness where Jesus' lacquer is shining through them. God bless us all.
To reach a friend with the Christ-centered message of hope and wholeness. This has been Anderson SDA Church in Northern California. Thank you for joining us. For more information, visit our website at andersonadventist.org. We look forward to seeing you next time.